to another episode of Market Pulse presented by Smart Touch Interactive. I'm your host, Aaron Fichera, and today I have a special guest, Anya Chrisanthon, with us from Anewgo. Anya, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the other side of the microphone for
I
once.
know the tables have turned right now. Before I was
Yes.
on your podcast. Well, for those that are listening, Anewgo is a wonderful company that focuses on the real estate market and provides a lot of great solutions when it comes to rendering, floor plans, and interactiveness. But let's take a step back and how did Anewgo come to be? For those that are unfamiliar with the company and the services that are being provided, Anya, you're currently the Chief Brand Officer for the company. So let's first start off with what do you do? How did you come to be in this industry?
So my journey into home building started in 2013. Prior to that, I was in financial services and I needed a change. And my journey really evolved from being in the sales roles to joining more the dark side, the marketing side, as I call it. And I've been in a variety of roles starting from a big national builder to a small custom builder, and really evolved into more of a marketing person along the journey. Always loved sales, but marketing was just something that really piqued my interest. And I think the fact that I was on the sales side also gave me a unique perspective into marketing and how I market. And then currently I'm a chief brand officer at Anewgo, so I help shape our brand's message and our brand's values as it's being communicated to our audience, both B2B as well as B2C. But as Anewgo is evolving as a company, as we're growing, and my role is starting to evolve more so into brand communications officer. So shifting kind of away from the traditional marketing functions into more of strategic speaking and thought leadership on behalf of Anewgo.
We definitely are benefiting from that change right now. Anya, tell us a little bit about Anewgo. When did it start? Where are you guys located? And what's the mission? Where are we headed?
So Anewgo has been around for over 20 years. We started off in 2001 as a rendering house. That was our original name because we concentrated primarily on content. So if you think about any sort of content that would help home builders to pre-sell or sell their communities, that was what we did. Anything from your static renderings to virtual tours and everything in between. And as we continue to evolve as a company, our mission has changed and what we do has changed over time. So we wanted to continue to grow with our home builders, and as industry was shifting and the way consumers shop has also shifted, we wanted to be on the forefront of that, and we wanted to facilitate a more of a seamless online buying journey for consumers on behalf of our builders. And so we evolved into more of a software and data company. And in 2020, we have changed our name officially from Rendering House to Anewgo, making Anewgo of it, as John Lee likes to say, our CEO. And so now we're more of we still do content, of course, but that content comes with data, and that data is enabled by interactivity. So we're really on the mission to move all of the content for home building industry to make interactive content as standard.
Yeah, and I know you kind of touched on that about the data, and I know we've personally used Anewgo and the renderings, the virtual tours, the data that comes through it. What separates you guys from the rest? Because there are a handful of rendering and virtual tours and interactive floor plans companies and services. What's one of your main differentiators?
Sure. So I would say the biggest difference between Anewgo and other content companies or even interactive content companies is how we produce our content. So we don't have a bunch of people overseas, you know, your traditional artists who are literally, you know, producing this interactive content by hand. We instead utilize AI. And I know when John Lee, our founder, talked about this process, you know, because we've been doing this for years, it was kind of like mind-blowing for people. Like, what? You don't have 700 people overseas doing this work for you? It's like, no, we have about 7 people, you know, who oversee this work. And it's all generated by this engine that we call. So it's a content agent. So it's AI. So now it's more understandable for people because now we have ChatGPT and we have access to a generative AI that can produce content for you. So much like that, Anewgo uses our own engine to produce this interactive content. So the fact that we use AI is a big advantage in an AI world, because instead of humans creating this content and say, you know, say, for example, our competitors may have 5 different variations of the plan and they're going to generate, humans going to draw those 5 variations of the plan. So then consumer sees the five options, he may click on option 3. So as a builder, you can see, oh, okay, option 3 is the most popular one. In our case, we are letting the consumer generate that data automatically using our AI engine. So instead of having preset number of plans, we have unlimited number of plans that don't cost extra for the home builder to generate. So every single plan can be a unique plan. Obviously, home builder will set certain parameters in place, right? Like, okay, we're only going to offer them 10 different siding options. We're only going to offer them, you know, 20 different shutter options and, you know, brick, whatever else. So, but the consumer can generate unlimited number of options. And we actually have a lot of designers who work for home builders who love that tool because they're able to put together packages using this engine, because it's going to allow them to really see what that looks like. But because the machine is generating it, all the pieces are separately tagged. So when the consumer starts to put all of the interactive data together and they say, okay, this is going to be green siding, it's tagged. We have the roof color, it's tagged. All those unique pieces that are being generated by AI, because it's generated by AI, they are tagged, which creates then unique filters that consumers can use to easily filter that information. And of course, it generates a ton of data that's pre-tagged, that then in turn feeds AI. So as we're getting into this world of AI, and I know it is maybe going over some people's kind of heads, what I'm talking about right now, but it is really important that you have that data if you want to play the AI game long term.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, and for those that for varying degrees of AI, so it really sounds like your users and your clients are really, you're benefiting from that knowledge and not leaving it static. Whereas in the prior years, it's okay, you, like you said, 1 through 5, I choose 3. That data might be static, but within this model that you're working off of, you could, I mean, I I love data. I love diving into data. So you're really piquing my interest. I mean, with the data that you guys are working off of, I mean, are you able to kind of get down to regions or floor plans or ways to kind of decipher this age demographic prefer, you know, this amount of percentage prefers this type of siding or this type of coloring or the, you know, the door facing the eastern front kind of deal? You know, what are some really
Yeah.
salient points that you guys have been tracking?
So it's really interesting to look at our analytics. So we have Anewgo Insights where you can see exactly what your clients are doing online. And it's quite a change from Google Analytics, because in Google Analytics, you kind of see the footprints, right? You can see that most people visited page 3 on your website, but you can't really see much beyond that. On Anewgo Insights, you can see every single fingerprint unique to the consumer. So we can see down to, okay, this consumer came into your website and first they didn't register for your website because they were not serious, right? They just came in and they were playing around. We can still see this anonymous data, but we can see everything that this consumer did. We can see that they selected home site 13. We can see that they've selected your plan B with elevation F. We can see all of the colors that they chose. We can see exactly how they built the house using the interactive floor plan. We can see all of the options that they've added. And then when they go to save that data, because typically when you are designing a home and you've invested the time and effort into it, you're more likely to actually reveal yourself. In other words, make yourself not anonymous, but tell us who you are by registering, because you want to save this progress. So once the consumer saves that data and they reveal themselves who they are, we're actually able to connect their anonymous data to their future data. So we are able to see the entire customer journey from when they first came in and they were not serious in what they did to now they've revealed themselves to us and what they're doing. So it's every single click. It's crazy.
So you're basically creating a cheat sheet for the sales agent, and
we really are. And what's amazing about it is that, of course, sales agents can use that information to engage with consumers, right? Because now you're able to have very meaningful conversations. It's not, hey, are you still interested, right? Do you still want to buy a house? Now we can talk specifically about Plan B, Elevation F, and did you know that most of our consumers choose this option with this because it's a really popular option? Have you considered that? So you're able to have more meaningful conversations with your clients. And as a builder, we're able to aggregate all of that data, individual data, into regions, into community, into your whole company. However you want to break it down, we can tell you that Plan B is the most popular plan in your entire offering of the floor plans, that fireplace and the luxury ensuite are the two most popular options that your customers are choosing. This down to all the colors of the siding, stone. So as a builder, you're able to make really intelligent decisions about what you should and should not offer. And you're really able to stay ahead of those trends. And now, of course, with AI, because you have all of this data, you're able to make predictive marketing work for you, much like Amazon can predict what you are going to do as a consumer based on your buying decision. We can use the same algorithm to now predict what those consumers are going to do. Are they likely to buy? Are they your hottest consumer, or they're not really serious? Should you follow up with them, or should you give them space? And when in the future they're more likely to come back, because again, we know that consumers buy and sell homes every 7 to 10 years on average. How can you use that data to now engage them and be the first one that they look at again?
Absolutely amazing. I mean, we live in a brave new world, but it's exciting. It's exciting, and you talked about trends, and that's kind of where I want to kind of take to this next question is, Anewgo's got 20 years of track record. You've got all this data, without kind of showing how the sausage is being made or, disclosing too much. What are some trends that this data is showing us about home builders or the buyer's journey? What are some trends that you guys have been noticing over the last couple of years?
So the biggest trends that we see in home building, I would say, let's talk about kind of like the bigger trends, maybe outside of our data, and then we can talk about our data as well, because one of the things that with all of that data, it is like, okay, because it's unique to each builder, it's a little bit trickier to aggregate it on a bigger scale, but I think it is something that we're going to start doing and producing some information to share with our builders, such as, maybe what sort of floor plans or what sort of color schemes are trending in certain region. So we are working on that, but I would say as far as bigger trends that we've seen overall in the industry, I would say couple of things. One is that trends of customization and personalization. We see that more and more consumers are wanting to personalize their home instead of just buying, the gray box with the white kitchen. And I think pandemic was certainly responsible for that, right? We're spending more and more time in our homes, and how I use my home may be very different from how you're using your home. And so we do see that trend of customization, which of course plays very nicely into our ability to provide that interactive experience for consumers so they can truly visualize, customize, and make the home theirs. And I would say the other trend that we're seeing is also kind of driven by the fact that we've experienced this pandemic and a lockdown, and it's a trend of real estate platforms or online applications emerging more and more, where consumers are able to control their journey more so and do a lot more things on their own, as opposed to needing to go into a sales center and get that information directly from the salesperson. Now we see that they are a lot more educated, they're a lot more knowledgeable, and they want to continue that journey online. And I think the online platforms allow them to do a lot more of that individually, independently.
Well, Anya, I think you also have a very unique perspective because of your sales background. So, with all this trend of new knowledge and a more educated buyer, how does that change for the sales agent? What do they need to do differently, or do they just keep the same course? Basically, they walk on the lot, I got somebody on the line. What do you predict, or what are you seeing as a shift, or is there a shift?
Yeah, I think absolutely a shift. So thinking back to when I sold homes in 2013, and we had, a CRM that nobody really used. And then I'm sure as a CRM provider, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is a challenge to get people to use some of this technology, right? So the sales process was very builder centric, right? I control the data, I control the information. If you want it, you come to me. Where now the sales process is evolving, and it is much more of a consumer centric. And so if we want included in this customer journey, then we need to show up where the customers are, and we need to provide the kind of customer experience that they want. So that kind of means for our builders that we do have to be everywhere at the same time, right? Because we are seeing this trend of online activity from consumer. It doesn't mean you need to close down your sales center and abandon altogether, because certain consumers may still prefer that sales center experience. Or, I may want to start online, and I may want to go into the sales center and continue that journey, but I may want to finish online. So I think as we're moving, as we're evolving in this, it is very important to provide what consumers want, and really stay on top of it. But as a role itself, I do think it is shifting more towards almost like a concierge role of a sales counselor rather than a salesperson, where you are, instead of chasing after 10 different people because you know absolutely nothing about those 10 different customers, right? They all show up to your model home, and like this, you're supposed to figure out, okay, who's serious, who's not serious. Now we're able to use data to see that, oh, this customer is actually really serious, and they seem like the kind of person who's actually going to purchase, versus this customer is asking a ton of questions, but from the behavior, we can see that those are the people that are waste a lot of our time, but they don't actually buy at the end. So now, using this data, I'm able to make smarter decisions. Yes, I may have less customers to work with, because as customers go through this online sales journey, they are filtering themselves out, right? Based on the price point. If I see that this house is out of my price range, I'm automatically out. If I see that you don't have the home site that I'm interested in, I'm automatically out. If I see that you don't have the floor plan I'm interested in, I'm out. So you may have fewer customers coming to you at the end of the day because they have gone through this online journey independently. But the customers that do come to you are much more serious buyers because they're pretty much said, hey, I'm the right person. I'm right here. Like, help me out. So I think you are going to work with fewer customers, but it's going to be much more personal experience where you are holding their hand throughout the whole process. And it's not just like, race to the finish line, sign the agreement of sale, and then good luck finding me again because I'm chasing after another customer. Now I'm here, I'm holding your hand throughout the whole experience and making sure you're happy as a customer from the start to the finish line.
Excellent. So it sounds like definitely with technology, education, and making more data-driven decisions, maybe it's less about quantity and more about quality of those individuals that show up and are already educated and primed.
Absolutely. And I think that is something that a lot of sales managers struggle with because
it's counterintuitive. It's, I need more.
Right. I need more. And if I show pricing, oh, I don't have as many leads and I don't want that. I want more leads. But no, you don't, because you don't want to waste your time on the wrong customer. You want to give them as much information up front as possible so that they can pre-qualify themselves and they can say yes. And now at the end of the day, I'm working with fewer, more qualified customers. And as a salesperson, I think that's a better approach.
Yeah. I mean, you would think, of course, as a salesperson, you're probably going to, less people coming in the door is going to cause your heart to race. But if you know that the hit ratio is going to be higher because they're already educated and you've already pre-qualified them, hopefully that leads to a better experience.
Absolutely. And I also think that as a salesperson, it's not about just sitting there and waiting for somebody to walk through your door, because it may not necessarily happen, right? With buy now technology, customers are starting to purchase online exclusively. So it doesn't mean that the salesperson is going to be left out of that experience completely, but are you meeting your customers online? We have the technology for you to meet them online. Just because you have a virtual tour on your website, it doesn't mean that the customer should be going through the virtual tour by themselves, unless they choose to. But you should give them an option to assist them of taking them through the virtual tour, much like you would through a physical model home, pointing out that, hey, did you see these, these appliances or whatever makes us different from the other builders, like telling the story, because we do see that when the salesperson is involved in a process, it does increase the conversion. It just, being at the right place at the right time, right? Like meeting your customers where they are.
Well, and should the sales agent be rethinking a 9 to 5 of when the sales center or the model home is open and think to themselves? Because personally, my wife and myself will look for houses, we'll submit stuff, but it won't be until around 7, 8 o'clock at night. We've had dinner, we sit on the couch, we're daydreaming about the future. I recommend that the sales staff now has to kind of change their mindset on when they have to meet the customer.
I think so. And I think that is why we have the emergence of popularity of self-touring, for example, right? Like going back to the trends from Anewgo website, like one of the things that we see through our analytics is when consumers are shopping, and it has consistently been Friday night and Saturday night are the most popular times when consumers are shopping for new construction. And it's between the hours of 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. is like the hottest time. It's where the most traffic is.
I'm one of those people. So
yeah, exactly. and I'm not saying like you need to be on during those hours and be present. But what I am saying is we have this data to show that that's when people want to shop or have the time to shop. So unless you're offering them something where they're able to engage, that they're able to take themselves down through the sales funnel and have access to those interactive tools, you're going to be out of luck, because they're going to move on to the next guy who is offering those tools, right? So, but I do think for sales agents, the role is going to evolve, is going to continue to evolve. And I don't know if it's going to be a hybrid role, where you are spending some time online speaking with your customers, kind of like hybrid between the OSC and the salesperson, or what that's going to look like. But the trend is definitely going that way, from self-touring to what time customers are engaging. It's outside of normal business hours.
Well, I mean, getting into tools and new technologies, I mean, we've talked about Anewgo over the 20 years, from rendering house to Anewgo. You guys are constantly innovating and pushing the envelope. So, for the audience, what's on the horizon? If you can give us a sneak peek, what's any crazy new technology coming down the line?
Yes, we do. So we are all about helping our builders to improve customer experience online. And so we kind of started the process by being that content company, right? That was like, the way we look at it is like we laid the foundation, because without content, there's really nothing, right? Like, you need content, you need people to be able to visualize what the product's going to look like. So we started with content, and now we've been working our way into channels. So when you think about channels, we want to create omni-channel experience, right? If you look at different channels, so there's, you may have your website, you may have a portal such as Zillow, you may have your social media, all these different channels that consumers are interacting with. What we're looking to create is this omni-channel presence, kind of like a Netflix effect, if you'd like, right? When I was watching a movie last night, I started watching on my TV. And then after I talked my daughter in bed, I finished the movie on my computer. So we want to provide that same uninterrupted experience for our buyers, so that doesn't matter where they start. It doesn't matter if they start on Anewgo.com, which is our new construction marketplace, kind of like Zillow for new construction, or if they come into your website, which we're working on right now to develop builder websites, or if they go into your sales office and they interact with the salesperson using the sales kiosk, and then maybe they go home and they finish the process. But the point is that it's a single sign-in, single log-on, and they continue that experience uninterrupted. I'm not starting from zero every time I go to your website. I'm starting from where I left off. I pick up where I left off. I continue my journey. And most importantly, what builder websites have been lacking up until this point is, again, that interactive content. We've been able to work with a lot of builder, with the website companies, and they have, there's a way for us to integrate our content in, but it creates interactive experience. But what we're looking to do is really double down on that personalized dynamic experience, much like the experience of social media. When you go to Facebook, you will see completely different, your feed's going to look very different from my feed, even if we're following the same 100 people on there. So what we're working on is creating that dynamic website, so that the content that you're going to see, instead of scrolling through 20 pages of whatever information, kind of like the old school phone book, right? You're trying to find what you're looking for, or that old school newspaper. It's like, okay, you start reading here and then flip over to page 4, section C to continue reading. No, we're going to bring that to you. So again, meeting your customer where they are and bringing that information to them instead of them looking for that information. So if you're a builder and you're selling single family homes, and you're selling townhomes, and you're selling to millennials, and you're selling to baby boomers, what I'm going to see as a millennial is going to be very different from what the baby boomer is going to see, depending on what they're looking at. Of course, we can't use demographic information, right? We don't want to break any fair housing rules, but it is more based on your activity online. So what are you looking at? What things do you seem to be interested in? We're only going to serve content to you that resonates with you, so that instead of looking at 100 different floor plans, you're only looking at 5. We're narrowing it down for you based on your preferences, based on your behavior. So that's one of the most exciting things that we're working on right now. We'll have hopefully the launch in 2024. That's our expected date to come out with it. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, the biggest thing is going to be that website is completely interactive, completely dynamic, and you pick up where you left off across all the different channels. We're unifying all the different channels to create that seamless experience for the consumer.
Wonderful. Any potential integration with VR or augmented reality? I know there's been a lot more talk in technology, like you take Matterport, where, do you see that as a growing trend, or is that just a fading fad that's, hey, seems nice when Mark Zuckerberg puts it on, but I don't really see myself interacting that way?
I think 100%. So we've done some virtual reality at Anewgo, and really the holdup was the hardware. The hardware is always the holdup.
Yeah,
it's not the software, because we have the technology to do it. It's just making it accessible on a larger scale, because right now, both Apple and Google are working on the VR glasses, instead of having like a huge helmet on your head, right? Like that's not very hygienic. You don't want to wear that. You probably don't want to share glasses with other people. But as that hardware becomes slicker, almost indistinguishable maybe from sunglasses, yeah, I think it's going to change how we shop for new construction, right? Because now I see your website, I see the virtual tour of the future community. I go on site, and instead of just seeing dirt, I have my glasses and I can see the future community, and I can see my saved preferred home on my preferred lot, and I can walk through that home and experience it as I would in the physical world. So absolutely, I think that is the future. I am so excited for when that becomes more mainstream, because it's going to absolutely put used homes out of business. Who wants to buy that when you can buy something new that you designed, and it's so easy for you to actually visualize it? Because right, that is the biggest obstacle for consumers, is they don't want to take a chance, they don't want to risk it, so they'd rather settle for used. But with VR, the sky's the limit.
It's amazing. Well, for those that are listening, we do have some home builders. What are some, in your opinion, what are 3 key actions that home builders can take right now to better market themselves?
Sure. So I would say, 1, you want to think about your content, right? There's been a lot of talk about AI, and the way people search is starting to change. We're already starting to see it. For example, personally, instead of going to Google anymore to search for something, I go to one of 3 of my AI search engines, I call them, right? So I, depending on what I'm searching for, I may start with ChatGPT. I use Bard, which is kind of a Google competitor to ChatGPT. And there's another one that's called Claude 2. I forgot who is maybe Anthropic is the, so I pretty much have those 3 open on my desktop at all times. And for anything that I need to search, whether it's a recipe or if it's current events, obviously I may not go to ChatGPT since it's only to 2021, but other 2 will tell me what's happening. And that's how I search. We also see that a lot of millennials, for example, or Gen Zs, they don't even bother with Google at all. They just search through social media, TikTok. So I would say the most important thing as a builder you can do is to figure out how to create content that's going to be searchable by AI. So if you're only providing skin level information, it's just not going to fly. It has to be data-rich content. It has to answer deeper questions, because you want to think about what consumers are searching for. It's no longer limited to keywords, right? Like in Google, we used to search by 5 keywords. I'm going to say single family homes in Raleigh, whatever, right? And it's going to try to spit out my dream home based on those 5 keywords. Now I can actually have a full-on conversation with my AI personal assistant, who's going to tell me, oh, hey, does this look like it? Okay, not this. You don't like this. How about this? What's important for you? What kind of amenities? What else is important? What kind of lifestyle? It's going to get much deeper beyond those 5 keywords. So I would say start thinking about how to create content that's going to be utilized by AI, because as we go further and further, that is how consumers will search for content. No longer the Google, but obviously there's going to be some people who search Google, but AI, my personal assistant, is going to talk to your personal assistant. They're going to broker the deal. So that's just the future of where we're moving. I'd say second trend is, or second thing to do is meet your customers where they are, right? Again, it's not about serving your content and hoping somebody finds it. It's serving your content where your consumers are. So figure out where your consumers are hanging out and serve that content to them. Bring the content to them. That is one of the things that we're trying to achieve with Anewgo Marketplace, is instead of buyer going to builder 1, builder 2, builder 3 and trying to find that, we're creating that Facebook experience where I have my personal cart, right? Like Amazon, and things come into my cart, and I can compare them. I can decide which one's best for me. And as I eliminate, it comes out of my cart, and what's left in my cart, I can go ahead and check out with that. And then of course, I think the video trend, it's not going away, right? Like we've seen the effect of TikTok, even Instagram Reels, and even Facebook is pushing Reels. So it's all you see is that short form content, and some builders have done a really great job with that. And so I would love to see more builders get on board with that short form content. And it's, again, not builder centric. It's not, oh, we've been in business since 1982. We're the family owned quality build. Like, nobody wants that. Like, make it relevant to what your customers want to see. And if you can use that UGC, user generated content, bonus points. Like, make it fun, make it exciting, bring it to your consumers. And I think another trend that's going to be evolving over time is that shopping online, right? Like, I mean, I can't tell you how it's probably every single week something shows up on my doorstep because I bought something. Like TikTok made me buy it, right? TikTok made me buy it. Oh. So people buy on social media. Of course, it is different for a new construction or for a house, but I do think the trend is going to go there. So it's what kind of things are you showing them? Are you making it accessible to consumers to engage with your content very easily? Maybe they can't buy right off TikTok, right? It's a little bit more complicated than that, but can they easily go from TikTok to your website or whatever you're going to take them and make it an easy experience and a fun experience for them? So I'd say those are...
No, that all makes sense.
Well, I'm glad. Hopefully, if it makes sense to you, hopefully it'll make sense to everybody else too.
We are going to a rapidly, yes, we're losing a little bit of the human element, but we're gaining more in data and data-driven decision-making. And just maybe more of a proliferation of choices for the consumer.
Yes, I struggle with, like, is it less of a human element? Because again, we're not trying to exclude people from the process. We're just saying give consumers what they want. And so I think one of the things that we're going to see as a consequence of the technology and all of these other channels that are evolving and the way consumers shop is that we're going to see that customer journey is going to shrink, much like the equivalent of think about like back in the day where you wanted to watch a movie and it's like, oh, I got to get in my car, I got to drive to Blockbuster, I got to pick a movie, hopefully it's a good movie, I got to take it home. And now it's like, okay, I'm at home watching this movie that didn't turn out to be as great as I thought it would be. Instead, now it's like streaming service, right? Like I'm much more likely to watch the trailer for the streaming service and actually pick what I want. So it's accelerating that decision. It's shrinking that customer journey and making them more likely to say yes. So it is going to be a balance of human versus technology. But I do think technology is going to help us sell better. It's going to help us, cut through the noise, get to our buyers, and the buyers are going to be able to make decisions a lot faster. And as humans, then we can spend time doing things that we probably more enjoy doing. Like, I mean, most salespeople hate asking for the sale and all of that. Like they love sales because they love working with people and guiding them through the process, but not necessarily, manipulating them into saying yes because they have the latest promotion.
Makes sense. Well, as we're rounding out our discussion, and Anya, this has been wonderful. How can our listeners stay up to date with Anewgo? Where can they find you and just be in the know?
Sure. Thanks for that. So, of course, the best way to stay in the know is probably by listening to our podcast. So it's called Anewgo of New Home Sales. You can either find it under podcast section on our website, which is anewgosell.com, or you can just search on your favorite podcasting app for Anewgo of New Home Sales, where I interviewed Aaron recently, so he was on couple episodes back. So definitely check that out.
If you like this tit for tat, you can get some more of it, is what you're saying.
Yes, and we do have a newsletter that we get out every couple of weeks with sort of updates to our products and services. We are active on LinkedIn. I would say if you're looking to learn about interactivity, customer engagement, we do post quite a bit on LinkedIn, so that's definitely a good way to follow Anewgo there as well.
Well, Anya, as always, any final thoughts for our audience before we wrap up today's discussion?
Well, I would say that AI, again, is one of those things that I remember when the internet first came out, we didn't quite know what to do with it. And nobody could have imagined Amazon or Uber when internet first made an appearance. So I think AI is going to change things in the ways that we don't even have an ounce of understanding how it will impact us. But I do know that it's going to be moving at a rapid speed. It is a technology that's going to continue to grow exponentially, which means that it's going to be very easy to be left behind. So I would say whatever you can do to start preparing for AI, and it's mainly has to do with your content. Again, like as I mentioned earlier, make your content AI friendly. That would be something that as a builder, I would concentrate on going forward.
Anya, as always, I appreciate the insights. And again, for those that are listening, highly recommend looking into Anewgo's podcast. Wonderful insights. And you have a wonderful host with Anya.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. And I appreciate you having us on the show. It was a lot of fun.
Well, for those that are listening, thank you again. And tune in next time for another episode of Market Pulse presented by Smart Touch.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.